Well, hello and welcome to this week's edition of Coffee Club. Myself, Robert Grieve, as ever. Bill Leckie making his long-awaited return.
No, a couple of weeks out with a hamstring there.
We had Gareth Law a fortnight ago. We had David Friel last week.
They were all right.
They were okay. They stepped in. They did a shift.
Gareth was all right for a Welsh guy.
They stepped in. We don't let say that these days.
You know, okay, sorry.
Get cancelled for that. Yeah, great to be back here in Bellavita. Again, it's been a huge week, I think it's fair to say, in Scottish football. Yeah. One that will probably live long in the memory for Rangers fans, but probably not for the right reasons. What an extraordinary result at the weekend. Rangers 0, Queen's Park 1. Talk me through it.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Amazing. It takes, for something like that to happen, it takes a huge amount of circumstances to all kind of align at the same time. And you know, it takes the big team to play at 5 out of 10 rather than 7 or 8 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
We'll come to that.
Being kind.
I'm being kind, but it takes that as a starting point. It then takes the wee team to play at 8s and 9s and 10s out of 10, and it needs to happen for 90 minutes because you presume at some point that the bigger team will get their chance and they'll take it. But I'll be honest, Robert, the longer that game went on, the less chance I thought there was of Rangers of doing anything. They were just aimless.
Yeah.
And Queen's Park just got better and better, and you could see as the second half went on, they actually started to believe that something was going to happen.
Yeah. First things first though, how is Philippe Clement still in a job right now?
Well, financial reasons, possibly.
Yeah, but seriously though, surely, for me, any Rangers manager that loses to Queen's Park in any serious competitive game, there's no debate about it.
Robert, I've said
and what has to happen for Rangers now? We've been talking about Philippe Clement and been under pressure for a number of weeks now, number of months now.
I first wrote his time was up after the Motherwell game, the 2-2 game in December, off the back of St Mirren beating them. Couldn't understand then why. Well, I can understand in terms of the financial.
Right, the financial things are an issue, right?
But as a manager, the fact that he has this extraordinary blip thing going on in Europe where they're doing well. Now we've talked before about the reasons and the tactical reasons why they can play a different way in Europe and maybe get different results. But in domestic football, every time he comes up a team who are obstinate against him, he loses. You know?
Yeah.
And he just doesn't know how to get round it. And what's worse for me, if I was a Rangers fan, would be to listen to him after a game like Sunday where he comes out and says, well, we made 142 million chances.
That's the thing, Bill.
And we're a young team and we're building and there's a project. And I would just be throwing things at my television.
Yeah, 100%. Chris Boyd touched on this in his column earlier. You mentioned that thing in your stuff as well. I think that's the thing that's killing him more than anything. It's Rangers fans.
Well, Boydie summed it up. He doesn't get it.
He doesn't. That's my point I'm going to make. He just doesn't seem to understand. When you come into that press conference after that game and you're then going to spout out, "Oh, we created this chance, we created that chance, we had this amount of possession." You're like, no Rangers fan is sitting watching that going, "Do you know what, Philippe? You're right. You're right."
Aye.
I mean, and listen, I know that to a certain extent you can't always pin it on a manager when a team like. Rangers could have won that game 6-1, right, easily, with the same performance, with the same overall performance, because they created enough chances. However, it doesn't matter.
They didn't.
What happened when Celtic lost to Inverness Cali in 2000?
Nobody remembers how many chances. Nobody.
The stats.
No.
The stats are irrelevant.
No.
The only stat that matters is the fact that the final score.
Absolutely.
And that's the same. And I think
and listen, it
does not serve Philippe Clement well that he continues to go down that road, and it continues to fail to understand or grasp the severity of the situation.
If he wants to talk about stats, he should have been honest and said, listen, we created 28 chances and took none. They created 1 and scored that. There's the bottom line. It is not good enough. Yeah. There's no point using 28 chances or whatever it was, 128 chances, as a reason why you played okay.
Yeah. Listen, at the same time, I don't think that there's very few things that Philippe Clement can come in and say after a game like that that's going, other than coming in and saying, hands up, I'm away. Right, which he's never going to do. He's never going to resign. He's never going to walk away for the contract. He's never going to walk away for the payoff.
But he can still put his hands up to
right, exactly.
What's happened?
Exactly. But it is, in all fairness, it's a very, very difficult situation for any manager to be in to try and talk your way through that. But to say continually say the things he says, you're like, what? Why
and he's been
that?
saying it. You go back to the 3-0 defeat at Parkhead at the start of September. and he comes out and says, well, it was 3-0, but it could just as easily have been 3-3. We had the same amount of shots on goal as they did.
Moral victory.
And all that. And you think, stop talking now. And then, that was the piece I wrote the next day, was it is ridiculous for any man to claim, and then he claimed that day, judge me in January.
Yeah.
Well, January's come and gone, and he's been judged.
Yeah. I do get the impression though, you wonder if he actually knows that he's bomb-proof. That he knows that...
Well, he says he is.
I mean, I went through a period maybe a few months ago where I actually thought he actually wanted the sack. I actually wondered if he was just saying, like, well, I can say and do what I like because I'm done here and let's just
and at that
cut
time,
to the chase.
At that point, the Belgium job was up for grabs, so it's just not anymore.
And maybe that's inaccurate, maybe that's doing him a disservice.
Yeah, maybe.
But, you know, I wonder if he realises the club don't have the money. I mean, he will realise the club don't have the money to end it. And he's probably thinking, well, it's irrelevant what I say because I'm bomb-proof. You know,
well, he said it after the game.
Because ultimately, Bill, if Rangers are not going to part ways with their manager after losing to Queen's Park, they're not going to part company with their manager. If he survives this week and it's still on the manager at Tynecastle on Sunday, then it's almost irrelevant what happens at Tynecastle because it's not going to get any worse for Rangers. And no disrespect to Queen's Park, who were exceptional, it doesn't get any lower for Rangers than that.
I suppose the next staging post is if they were to lose in Europe, the club might say, well, we might as well, because that's the only thing he was any good at was getting results in Europe.
If they're not doing it this week, Bill, if they're not doing it back losing to Queen's Park, they're not doing it.
I think you're probably right. And he knows, because he said openly both on TV and in the press conference after the game when he was asked, you know, do you think the board will, do you think you have to consider your position?
No, he was very bullish. No, I think I'm fine. Yeah, I wondered if on Monday morning, and this is where you wonder what it was like in at Murray Park or Ibrox, or however you call it these days, Rangers training ground, or at Ibrox on Edmondson House on Monday morning, where people running about with their hair on fire, you know, where they kind of, right, what do we do, you know. I think
it doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it, but I think the club should have come out and said something. If they came out and addressed the situation, it was almost like a kind of business as usual attitude. If they came out, Bill, and said, told Rangers fans, sure, at that point, probably refreshing their phones every 5 minutes. I was getting text messages and phone calls constantly from people.
Is he away?
Is he away? But you wonder if, I don't know, that I think they should have addressed it. I think they should have come out and said, listen, we're aware that it's not good enough, we're aware of the situation, and even if were they to say to Rangers fans, listen, we're going to take stock in the summer. We're going to take stock at the end of the season, and Philip's aware of that. I don't think he could have any complaints about that, and I think that maybe would have calmed the masses a little bit. The
problem with that, Robert, is that a few weeks ago we talked about it. Patrick Stewart, the new CEO, came out without being asked to come out and held a press conference before they played St Johnstone, day before the game, and he came out and basically hooked his wagon to Philippe Clement and said, you know, don't worry about anything, we're not making any rash decisions. So he can't really come out now and say, we're now going to make a rash decision because we lost a cup tie. Yeah. I said at that point, he had made a mistake. He had put his eggs in Clement's basket, and it was a mistake for him to make. And it then proved it because the chairman then turned up with Patrick Stewart in a hospitality lounge at the next home game saying, well, when we said that, what we actually meant was... Yeah. You know, and I think they've talked themselves into a terrible corner, Rangers.
Yeah. I think, listen, if you look at it from the other point of view, we've seen so many managers emptied for jobs prematurely, and we've sat here and we've sat talking about it afterwards thinking, like, why did they jump so soon?
Oh, Gio Van Bronckhorst is one problem.
Not even just at Rangers, you threw it at every club. You know, Hibs have done it countless times, Hearts have done it, Aberdeen, maybe not Aberdeen, but, you know what I mean, they've kind of... Yeah, they push the button.
They listen to the fans. They listen to the anger, and the board gets scared.
So, is there any credit to the Rangers board whatsoever for trying to, as the famous quote was from John Bennett months ago or a year ago, we don't want to rinse and repeat. Which I get the sentiment of that.
Absolutely,
I get the sentiment of that because Rangers can't keep continuing to change manager after manager after manager. So, is there any credit they're due for the fact that they aren't kind of reacting to public opinion?
Only if they have a project and a process that they're confident Philippe Clement can deliver.
Yeah.
Now, so far they haven't given any intimation of what that project is, just that he needs time, right? Now, they've just had another transfer window where they really haven't done very much to show back in form.
Well, they can't.
No, well, they can't. That's the whole point.
That's not a conscious decision.
Well, it is a conscious decision. Could you say we consciously can't go out and spend money we don't have?
No, but I consciously can't go out and spend £1,000 on a suit. You know what I mean?
No.
It's like, because I can't afford to spend £1,000 on a suit.
They've done it before.
A long time ago.
No, they had no. Rangers, no, not you. No, you spent £1,000.
No, far off.
Rangers have done it before. Rangers, to their absolute disaster, have spent money they didn't have.
Look what happened.
So you understand that they're now trying to live within their means a little bit more. I just think there's a lot of confusing messages coming out from Rangers saying we need to back this guy, we need to back this project where he wants to turn it into a younger, fitter, more dynamic squad, but then not really giving him the bodies to do it.
Even the youth thing that he's going through. But he stumbled across that.
It's a smokescreen.
He stumbled across that. The B team's been emptied. Yeah. They've got kids there that they need to try and promote or get them out the door. And by accident, NCL's come into the squad. Excuse me, not by accident, but
necessity.
Necessity, yeah. So that's not been him plucked out of the 20s and going, listen, baby, this boy's the next big thing. Let's get him in the team. He's better than Robin Proper, which, by the way, he is. But that's not particularly saying very much. But it's like. That's not been by design. No, and he claims it's by design.
It's not by design.
This is our grand new plan to bring kids through. That's not the case.
It's not.
Bailey Rice gets emptied at half time.
Well, that's the one I was going to bring up. Right? Now, there's a great example. They go and get Bailey Rice, who's developing
terrific player
quite well at Motherwell. Comes in, gets no chance at all. Then suddenly he's thrown in at half time in the Manchester United game at Old Trafford. Does very well.
Does brilliantly.
Then he comes in against Queen's Park, and at half time when it's 0-0, he gets emptied. And it was one of several very confusing decisions I thought Clement made in game on Sunday, not the least of which was taking off Yanis Hadji and bringing on Ridvan Yilmaz.
Baffling.
And again, when he was asked about this after the game in the TV interview, he was asked, can you talk us through why you made negative substitutions? And he jumped in and said, well, I brought on a striker in Cyril Dessers. How is that negative? He knew what he was being asked. But he's deflecting away from it, and I don't think the deflection does him any credit.
No, even if you're standing in the touchline as that's unfolding, you're thinking, what are we going to do here? You pull out there, you pull your coach and say, what do we think? You just know the reaction.
Aye.
And when things are going badly, to make that decision, even for the
one will bring a left back.
Let's take a creative midfielder off and put on a left back. Even if your left back you bring on ends up creating or scoring the winning goal, there's still going to be boos and anxiety when it happens. It's
the thing about
things like that baffle me.
But the thing about even watching Rangers, the body language in the park, the shape as they tried to make things happen, there was no great belief that they were ever going to do. I mean, even right down to the last minute of the game, the most dramatic finish to a game imaginable, with the penalty.
Was that a penalty? I think it was a penalty.
I don't think Queen's Park would have got that penalty.
I think it was a penalty.
There you go. Okay, right, fair. Doesn't matter.
It was clumsy.
It was a penalty, and it was VAR, and it was looked at. James Tavernier comes up, and I'm watching him, and I'm saying he's going to come up, he's going to do his wee shuffle, he's going to run up, and he's going to smash it high to the goalkeeper's right, and the goalkeeper's going to have no chance. And the keeper's there, and you can see the keeper edging that way, and you're thinking,
a bit of delay which didn't help Tavernier.
He goes to take it, and the referee tells him to stop because they're then checking back for offsides.
Yeah, but they're also
in the build-up.
Cyril Dessers, by the way, was at as the camera was looking at the near side corner, almost kind of, I think, infringing into the box, kind of trying to, and the referee kind of warned him. Cyril Dessers didn't do Tavernier any favours. No. It's like, if you're any other Rangers player, get out the road, let your captain take the penalty.
But when he steps up, I wrote it my piece on Monday, and it's easier to write it when you've seen it, but at the time I was sitting watching going, I think this boy's going to save this.
I thought he was going to miss as well.
And there's no real conviction in that penalty. That's not a Tavernier penalty. And you wonder what.
At the same time, it's a pressure penalty.
But the point I'm asking, he has scored a million pressure penalties.
Yeah, I know, but
what I would say is, Robert, I wonder in that situation where Rangers are, what's about to happen in the game, even for a guy like Tavernier, who has, without whose goals Rangers would have been miles further back than they've been over the last few years. You wonder what's in his head at that moment, what he's thinking.
What do you think he's thinking? He's thinking he needs to score.
I think he's thinking he needs to score.
And he's under P. You can see him taking deep breaths.
But in the moment, he knows he's got to score. But in those, there's a massive puff of the cheeks before he hits the ball. But you wonder how much pressure and even in your subconscious head, how many decisions it makes in a tenth of a second. You wonder all the things that are going through a player's head in that situation. Yeah. Is this kick going to either save or bin the manager? What are the fans going to do if I miss this? You know, if I score this, we'll probably go and win it in extra time, so that will be great, all will be forgiven. It's a massive moment, and it says a lot that Tavernier, being the guy he is, wasn't up to it in that moment. Because normally he would just smash it. Yeah,
listen, he's taking a million pressure penalties. But we won't know, essentially. We don't know what it feels like to be in that situation. We'll never know what it feels like to be. I've played in pitches, and I've often, like Ibrox or Celtic Park or Hampden, when they're empty, like kind of bounce games, and I genuinely, with conversation with you guys, you're thinking this must be awesome when it's full, when there's 50, 60,000 here, and what it must be like, you know. We don't know. No, your heart must be pounding at your chest, you know.
But you look at it, Ibrox is by that time half empty, probably 2/3, well, a third empty, whatever it is. He has taken penalties at, you know, Celtic Park and places all around the world where he's been under pressure, and that one there for some reason just really got to him.
Yeah, well, it did.
And the whole thing got to Rangers because they just were, you know, it's one of the great cliches: outfought, outrun, outthought. But that's what they were by Queen's Park. Queen's Park were absolutely magnificent, Robert. Absolutely brilliant.
We have to pay tribute to Queen's Park.
Brilliant.
I mean, you did that in your piece the other day. Yeah. Callum Davidson. I mean, wow, it's incredible to think that St Johnstone thought they could do better than Callum Davidson. No disrespect to
there's a great example of what you're talking about earlier. Is listening to the wrong people and making the wrong decisions.
I don't mean that disrespect to the manager they've got now or anything else, but I think he's a great guy, and I think he's proven himself.
Yeah.
He's a top. He's a top manager.
He's also a great example of why sometimes it's not a great idea to punch that far above your weight.
Yeah.
Because Stephen Robinson said that the other night about St Mirren when they lost the cup tie Hearts. Somebody asked about, have you punched above your weight the last couple of seasons? He says probably, and the problem is that people start thinking that is your weight, and that's probably what happens in Johnson. They look at it and go, well, we won 2 cups 2 years ago. Why are we not winning 2 cups this year? You know. So Callum Davidson, well done to him and to Callum Ferry and to Seb Droz and everybody else in the team, because I thought they were sensational. And also Callum, he used 2 subs during the game, so he obviously believed in these guys. He believed in their fitness. I thought they were brilliant, just brilliant.
Yeah, but it's certainly going to be interesting to see how things are going to develop at Rangers. As I say, but Wednesday now, the weekend's fast approaching.
Massive game.
It doesn't look like they're going to make any big decisions between now and then. You wonder if there are conversations. I think there probably are conversations behind the scenes about how they maybe get themselves into a position. Rangers can't keep losing.
No.
They can't. I mean, we're saying if they lose to Hearts at the weekend, then it's not any worse than losing to Queen's Park, which obviously it isn't. And they could well lose to Hearts. We were at Hearts, St Hearts Monday night. They could easily lose to Hearts. They could easily lose the next year, and we get a run of games, and what happens then? So it's not as if Rangers can't. The Rangers hierarchy. They may find themselves in a position where they have
I was going to say, where I disagree with your argument about how, well, if they're not going to do it now, they won't do it at all, is there comes a point where things are unsurvivable. I've talked a lot this season about the comparison.
Sorry, I thought that was Sunday night.
Yeah, but I've talked a lot this season about the comparison between Eric Ten Hag's situation and Philippe Clement's situation. And Ten Hag went games where you went, they must sack him, 3-0 at home with Bournemouth, whatever. He must go now. Then he would go and win a Manchester derby, and they'd say, maybe this is the real Ten Hag. But eventually there comes a point where you just go, no, we can't go on limping back and forward like this. And there'll come a point for Rangers where they can't limp along with, and whether they have to put a youth coach or Alec Ray or anybody in charge, it might have to be just that.
Yeah. One thing I will say, and I think it's worth pointing out, I think Philippe Clement's a really decent man.
Me too.
I like him. I enjoy speaking to him. You ask him a question, you get an answer, you get an honest answer out of him. He thinks about his answers. He's a very, very decent man. There was a video footage the other day of one or two fans been outside Ibrox waiting for him a good while after the final whistle, by the way, and they were giving him dogs abuse. I don't like that. I don't think that serves anyone or does anyone any good. He did well to just keep his head down and walk straight out the way. We know fans are going to be upset, we know they're going to be angry, we know they're going to be outraged, and to a certain extent during the game, while they're in the stadium, they're entitled to voice their opinions to a certain extent, but I think Clement is a very decent man. And I don't think I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I don't like that generally, but
I think he would be a massive success in a job that was a project. See what here, and I don't mean this club particularly, but see the way a Bournemouth or a Brighton operate, where there's no massive expectations, where they use the transfer market well, where there's a bit of money in the bank, and where players are allowed to develop. I think he'd be perfect for that kind of environment. I think he's probably too decent a guy to be in this bubble with Rangers and Celtic where you're either first or you're nowhere.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's the problem, is he thinks it's okay to be building and trying to get a bit closer as they go along. As we all know, rightly or wrongly, that doesn't happen with the Old Firm.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're either first or you're nowhere.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think he's the worst Rangers manager they've ever had.
Nope.
By any stretch of the imagination. I think he's just, and I think for any Rangers manager now, and this is maybe an issue going forward. It is an issue going forward. Whoever's managing the Rangers right now, it's a very, very difficult period of time to be the Rangers manager. I'm not saying you could appoint anyone and it would make any difference, but Celtic are so far and away ahead of them on and off the park that it's a very, very difficult time to be the Rangers manager at this point in history, because of the finances, because of the gap, because Celtic have. I mean, it could be a while before. Listen, Celtic will probably get to a point where something happens that kind of knocks them off course.
There always is with the Old Firm. There's a shelf life for everybody.
It's probably not that far away. At the minute, they look a country mile away from Rangers, because essentially I think they are. But that's not to say it couldn't change very quickly. We've seen it happen at various points.
Here's the exact, and this is the one of the great quirks of that game at the weekend, was it came 25 years in one day after Cali won at Celtic. Okay, and we had the Super Cali globalistic headline in the Sun, then we've got Super Callum this time. So it all worked in beautifully there. John Barnes was gone that night. I mean, he just, that was him. He was finished. It was all over for him after that night. The players were going against him the whole thing.
Well, there was whole Mark Viduka thing refusing to play in the second half and all that kind of stuff. Come on, at least doesn't have that to deal with.
No, but the big change Celtic made was that by the following season they had gone and got Martin O'Neill. And Martin O'Neill came in and revolutionised everything. Yeah. And Rangers right now need a move of that size.
No, but that's the issue, Bill. That's the issue. Martin O'Neill came in to Celtic at that point and was able to go and spend £6 million in John Hartson, bring in Chris Sutton, bring in
Lennon, so Alan Thompson, blah blah blah.
He revamped the squad with a pile of money. The next Rangers manager doesn't have that.
Well, I think when you look back, you'll maybe realise how much money Rangers have spent and wasted.
Yeah, they have. In comparison to every other club in Scotland other than Celtic.
But
in terms of, they've spent a considerable amount of money
and badly. That's one of the problems. 100%. Badly,
and that's a huge argument to whoever comes next.
Yeah.
The recruitment has to be done better.
To be better.
I mean, there's some people out there think Rangers recruitment's been decent in the last while. Like, what are they doing?
Terrible.
So that's clearly the money that Rangers have is
being wasted.
It's been wasted. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, I mean, they can't go and spend 10, 12 million pounds on a player.
No, they can't. But they
Celtic can. Celtic are bringing Kieran Tierney back. They're going to bring.
Listen, because they have the stock. They've got the war chest.
They've got the wealth to do it.
But the point I'm making with Rangers is their next move can't be a guy who might be a good manager, might be the right fit. It has to be an absolute
stick on, which is easier said than done.
But that's why guys like Patrick Stewart, who spent 15 years at Manchester United, that's why guys like him have been hired, so that they can go and make these decisions, so they can go and use their clout to bring in someone. Now, I'm not saying you go and get Carlo Ancelotti, right? What I'm saying is that you go and get someone who changes the game for them, and not just somebody who muddles along in the same way. They can't have another Michael Beale, they can't have another Philippe Clement.
They go and get Derek McInnes. Told you before, that's what they do. They go and get Derek McInnes.
I love Derek McInnes. I don't think he gives them that change that
Derek McInnes knows Scottish football inside out. He knows Rangers inside out.
It's a tremendous.
He would make them better.
He's a tremendous Scottish manager.
He would get more out of that squad as it is.
That's undeniable.
And he would get better value for money.
That's undeniable. That's undeniable, Rob.
That's the next step for Rangers.
Okay.
That's the next step. He might not be the Rangers manager for the next 10 years, but for the here and now, I think Derek McInnes would do a tremendous job for for Rangers. I don't actually like talking that way.
No, because he's in a job.
He's in a job, apart from else.
Clement will not be happy with
and
that.
And also, I know we've sat here talking about Philippe Clement and how he should be.
He's also still in a job.
We're surprised he's not in sack, but there's something. I don't particularly like sitting here talking about guys getting emptied. I genuinely don't.
But it's life.
But it's life, and it's also. But we've been in this game long enough to just be surprised by events.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what we're talking about here. There's not a Rangers fan out there who isn't surprised that Philippe Clement is still on a job.
Absolutely.
And I think he's probably in that boat as well. But then, I don't know.
Listen, a remarkable day, and at the end of the day, let's not forget, Queen's Park won it and were sensational. And I wish they'd got a home draw. That would just have been brilliant for them.
Yeah, but they've been rewarded. They're in the hat. They're still there, and good luck to them. But as ever, we'll be watching with interest for all the best news and views on Rangers. Stick with Sunsport. We've been I think, bringing great analysis and news, insight into what's going on there in the last few days. Incidentally, you need to like and subscribe to this if you wish.
You don't need to.
You don't need to.
But very nice if you did.
I'm saying you need to then, if you wish. It's a kind of contradiction in terms of. There's a thing beneath here somewhere that our
next to the cakes,
underneath the cakes, that our tech guys will have you like and subscribe to this. It would give us an insight into how this is going, and as always as well, your comments. Let us know what you think about what Bill's saying. Get into him.
He's a lovely man.
He's always. If you see him in the street, tell him as well.
Aye.
No, don't do that. We're off to shouldn't I say that? We're off to Celtic Park tonight. What is a huge, massive Champions League playoff.
It's a very exciting game
for the last 16. Celtic against Bayern Munich. I tell you what, I'm thoroughly looking forward to.
Very much so.
Celtic Park.
Goals, without a doubt.
You think so?
Oh, there's goals.
Goals.
Aye, there's goals.
Is Harry Kane an absolute stick on his score? Is that kind of feeding the worst for
Celtic will hope not, but I mean he just scores goals for absolute fun over in Germany's. People wondered how he would adapt after so many years in English football, and he's just such an intelligent player.
You're a fan of him?
As a player?
Yeah.
Massively.
Are you?
I think he's a diver.
Yeah, I don't like him.
I don't like the diving.
I don't like him at all. He's a good player.
I think he's listen,
I don't like his antics.
I don't think I'd invite him here for lunch with us, but I don't think he's that kind of guy. But his antics are a bit nonsensical. But what a finisher!
Yeah.
And what a creator of goals. He is the guy who every striker now wants to be Harry Kane, because they all want to say, well, I am a number 9, but I'll drop into 10 and all that. And he's the only one that does it with such ease.
Yeah.
And the thing about him is, Celtic are going to be watching him like a hawk tonight, obviously. But off round about him, Kingsley Coman and Musiala and Sani or whoever else is round about him, and you need eyes in the back of your head tonight, the way they move.
I'm talking, we mentioned Kane obviously first of all, but Musiala for me, we saw him in the summer.
Brilliant.
Last summer, unfortunately, one of his good games against Scotland.
Yeah.
He's top level.
It's funny, Germany played about wide left against us, but they play him in kind of head of the midfield if you're looking at a diamond kind of idea. No, I'm not going. I'm going to move Tiramisu in a minute.
Please don't.
And he plays up there, and he's just in and around everything. He's tremendous. Kingsley Coman will probably play off Kane up front, and Joshua Kimmich will hold the midfield. They're such a good team, and they're missing a few players, but they never seem to miss a beat when they have to bring replacements in.
Yeah. I spoke to Callum McGregor the other day after they beat Wraith Rovers on Sunday, and he made the point quite emphatically actually that he thinks Celtic have to win tonight.
There's no doubt.
You think so? You go along with it?
I would say that if Celtic are to have a really good chance of going through this tie, they would need a 2-goal lead tonight.
2-goal lead. Wow.
2-goal lead.
Wow. You're probably right.
Because.
But at the same time, I think right now, in all honesty, would Celtic take nothing each, one each?
You'd
bite your hand off for that right now.
Celtic will take anything that keeps them in the tie.
That's what I mean.
No, whether it's a 2-1 defeat, a 1-1 draw, a 0-0, whatever it is. I think there are goals tonight. I think Celtic will score.
Maeda's a great boost for him, isn't it?
Honestly, I had, as you know, I had a piece ready to run in today's paper, which was on because
you do that, don't you? You write pieces well in
advance. Before the news happened. No, over the weekend I was just thinking that at the time of that Young Boys Bayern game, the fact that he got sent off almost got overlooked in the middle of the goal, and then the the drama at the end with Schmeichel saving late on, and people kind of went, "Ah, well, he gets sent off, but that's okay." And then suddenly, because Kyogo wasn't there and they hadn't brought in a replacement, losing him became a massive thing. And we were sitting at the St Mirren Hearts Cup tie the other night when the news came through, sort of halfway through the game, and you just thought, how big a lift must that be for Celtic? Now, Celtic had obviously appealed the decision, but they hadn't made a thing of it.
Quietly.
Because I don't know if they were expecting to get a result.
It was interesting the fact that they didn't make that public. It was, I don't know why, I thought...
No, Brendan Rodgers said at the weekend what a miss he's going to be.
Yeah, no, they certainly weren't expecting to go overturned, but I spoke to Brendan Rodgers about this yesterday, and he actually told us that when the kind of rap sheet came in, I think Thursday, Friday last week from UEFA, that's when you can make your decision to appeal it, and you can then see the wording of what he's basically have accused or found guilty of to have done. And it was an assault. The word assault was in there.
I didn't think it was.
It wasn't assault.
It was like, petulance.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. So, in fairness to him, and he said this, like as soon as the Celtic kind of legal guys have seen this, they went, "Oh, wait a minute, we can pounce on this." Yeah, and that's exactly what they've done. But equally, it shows that Brendan Rodgers wasn't expecting it to happen, because
absolutely not.
Imagine Dyson Maeda played 90 minutes in the last 3 games. It was, as he said himself, he ran the legs off him.
Dyson Maeda could play 90 minutes 4 times a day, to be quite honest.
Play 90 minutes this afternoon.
And he has developed. He was always incredibly quick, incredibly busy. Nobody works as hard as he does. He's as honest as a day is long, but he's developed this season a finishing ability that he used to have when he was at Yokohama, but he never really showed in the last couple of seasons with Celtic. And suddenly this season he's got the confidence in front of goals, which makes him a massive player. Yeah. Well, we are recording this on Wednesday. If you're watching this on Thursday, you'll know the result of Celtic. I'm relatively optimistic that they can get a result that keeps them in the tie. Good. I'll go as far as to say that. So if you're watching this on Thursday, that would be amazing. That would be tanked 5-0. I can see Celtic scoring. I can also see Bayern scoring. It's the way Bayern play. It could be a 3-2 Bayern. It could be a 4-2 Bayern. You don't know. You just don't know. Yeah. Well, we wish them well anyway. I'm certainly looking forward to the game. The packed house, Celtic Park. Rangers Celtic. The European nights, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. They're brilliant. Thunderous noise and the teams come out and they'll be great. And I think visiting teams come here and really appreciate the sense of occasion that comes with playing at Parkhead and at Ibrox. It's a wonderful thing. Not quite as thunderous on Monday night, the last game we were together. We're clutching this, we've not got very much longer left, but we were at St Mirren Park. You were working, I was just watching. And I thought St Mirren should have had that game won and out of sight. They lost some penalty kicks to Hearts, as people will know. Craig Gordon pulling off a couple of great saves, as he did during the 90 minutes. Albeit I thought he was at fault for the St Mirren goal. But St Mirren had chances in the first half. I thought they should have been out of sight. And we were both sitting there, having watched St Mirren for a number of years, a long number of years. You almost knew it was coming. We've seen that movie before. We've seen the movie before. And St Mirren have a way of playing that when the ball goes long to Olasanya and Mandron up front, and when the two of them are working well together, we're a very potent side. But when it stops happening, there's not really a plan B. They were unlucky, I thought. What about Hearts? Because there's been a bit of change there. They brought in some new players. Neil Critchley's doing really well. I wasn't convinced that he was going to, and you still don't know what his long game is with Hearts, how he's going to do. But 8 games now without defeat, 6 wins, couple of draws. They've tightened up at the back really well. They defended really well the other night. And he's finding something that they didn't have before, which is a way of getting into the box and creating chances. Elton Kabangu is a really good signing from Belgian football. He's very quick, very direct. But the one that I'm massively impressed with, that Critchley's given his chance to properly, is James Wilson. 17, still at school. Well, he was on the bench. He came off the bench. And he came off the bench the other night, and I think he changed the game, because he dragged Hearts 20-30 yards up the park. He commits defenders. He's incredibly courageous. I mean, he took a bang he took from Alex Gogic. and setting up a chance that could have won the game in normal time. 17-year-old boy, he is a real star, and it tells a lot that during extra time, Crixley took off Lawrence Shankland, captain and main penalty taker, and Wilson put his hand up, took the first penalty and smashed it in the top corner. There's confidence for you.
Yeah, I have to say Lawrence Shankland was lucky to stay in the park as long as he did, because he offered very, very little. And I'm a Lawrence Shankland fan, as regular viewers will know, but wow.
Didn't look on it at all, did he?
He's gone way off, and there's a Scotland game coming up soon.
Yeah.
Steve Clark was at that game. I don't think Lawrence Shankland should be anywhere near that Scotland squad, and I hate saying that. I really do hate saying that, but
he's also not playing centre forward anymore.
He can he's coming off, but he's just so he's a good player, you know, and he looks as if he's devoid of confidence. But you mentioned, I mean, obviously young Wilson, Evan Mooney for St Mirren. Excellent. Penalty was exceptional in the shootout when few of the St Mirren penalties were. It's good that James Wilson, Evan Mooney, these young Scottish players coming through, getting their chance, coming on, making an impact.
Well, we keep hearing that there's not enough youth development in the top flight in Scotland, and that's very true. But then you start saying Evan Mooney, James Wilson, Lennon Miller, Bailey Rice.
Yeah.
You know, when you start seeing a few boys coming through, maybe other clubs start to look at it and say, well, even if out of necessity we have to, then let's do it. And I've got no doubt that if St Mirren get a good offer for Evan Mooney, he'll be away. I've got no doubt that if Hearts got a big offer for James Wilson, he'd be away. But to see them play and to be given the freedom they are is excellent.
Yeah.
And fans love it.
Yeah, when we talk about it another time, actually, because it's a big talking point. I think you're right. If these kids coming through, but I think the first chance that the clubs get to move them on, they probably will take it, because there's a market now in England for young players, and that's an avenue for them. Anyway, that's what it is for this week. As I say, like and subscribe if you can, if you want to. You don't need to. You don't need to, but if you want to, we are going back to the scene of the crime next week. We're going back to Munich for Celtic's second leg. We'll both be there. So Coffee Club will be coming to you, hopefully, from some little cafe in München. And we'll discuss.
We won't have this though.
We won't have this.
We won't have this tray of tiramisu and
we won't get the hospitality that we get.
Carrot cake, ginger cake. It's beautiful.
But yeah, we're looking forward to the trip actually. And as I say, hope from Celtic's point of view,
they're still in
and for our fans that are all going across there, that they're still in the tie. But we'll be dissecting that match and everything else next Wednesday. But again, thanks for joining this week. Like and subscribe if you can, if you want to, you need to, and we will catch up with you again next week.